Hello YouTube, this is Daniel here from DB Tech Projects, back here with the final part of this series. So in this video I will show you the CloudFormation templates and also the Cloudfront distribution. So firstly, I have this PowerShell script here to pre-stage our environment. So we're going to create a S3 bucket using the AWS CLI, so just specifying the create bucket and the bucket score predictor repo, and this is going to hold all of our Lambda functions and our front end. We then copy the files in this directory here to that S3 bucket which we just created. So we have the possession, the result, and the score Lambda functions. We have our CloudFront image and our front end here. We also have our data sets which we will import into our RDS once it's deployed. So once those are done, we can then look at the CloudFormation templates. So I've got this split up into a few different templates just to make it easier. So the first one will deploy our S3 bucket, and that's just the title template, specifying the AWS S3 resource, the index document for index.html, and the error document. And then we're just going to add a rule in here to allow the primary IP, and we specify that in the parameters here. So when we put in the when we actually deploy the template, it will ask us for our primary IP address, and we can then input it in there. And if we just scroll through the rest of it, and then once it's finished, we can see it's going to provide us with the website URL and the S3 bucket secure URL. The next template is the largest one, which is the VPC, so the virtual private cloud, and the RDS. We've got our parameters up here, which we will ask for the DB user, DB password, and the primary IP address. We then are declaring our resources, so the CloudFormation VPC with this side block here. Normally you'll probably have much smaller address range than this. We then specify the route table, the internet gateway route, then the subnet route table associations. Notice we have two subnets for AZ1 and AZ2. Then the internet gateway configuration. Then the actual subnets, our subnet groups. And we can see this is the SQL Server subnet group using two subnets for two availability zones. We then have the rules here, so the security group configuration. So we're allowing the default SQL Server port of 1433 going to and coming from that security group. We then have the network ACL rules here for the inbound and the outbound. And here we specify the actual DB instance. So you can see it's an RDS DB instance, a DB T2 micro, allocated storage of 20 gigabytes, and the engine is SQL Server. And then we will use the DB user and DB password parameters provided. As always, guys, these templates will be in the description so you can check them out and make any changes that you need. And for the outputs, we're just going to provide the connection details, so the endpoint address of the RDS instance and also the endpoint port. The next three templates are for our Lambda functions. So I'll just show you one of them because it's pretty much the same. So the parameters, we will ask for the DB password, which will be the same password which we provide in this template here for the VPC. We then have the DP endpoint, which we will get from the deploy VPC CloudFormation template once it's finished. We then have our VPC security group IDs and subnet IDs. So once the second template has been fully deployed, we can then go ahead and deploy the Lambda functions. That's why I've separated this out into 3 templates. So we'll have the S3 template go off first, then the VPC and RDS, and then finally the Lambda functions. We then set up the execution role and the execution role policy for the Lambda function. And this is the actual configuration. So we can see here the function name and the S3 bucket and the actual zip file which contains the code. And then we just have the description, the runtime, the actual handler which holds the function, and also the VPC config in here as well. And then we're also providing the environment variables, which we will get from the parameters at the top of this template. So we can see the DB password and a DB server and a DB user admin. Sorry, the DB username. I already know the table or the database, sorry, is going to be this EFL 1888-2017. So I've already gone ahead and put that in there. We then have the API configuration here. So you can see we have the Lambda permission to actually invoke the function. And then we set up the CloudWatch logs for the API gateway. And then we just have more of the API configuration here, such as the stage, the deployment, and the actual configuration. We can see here we set up the method for a get and the post methods here. And the actual response code we will provide once it gets posted from the front end. So yeah, that's pretty much the same for the rest of the Lambda functions. So what I'm going to go and do now is deploy this using CloudFormation. So what we do is we go over to create stack with new resources, and then we upload a template file. We have our 3 templates here, sorry, our 5 templates. And firstly, it is the S3 template. So we just go through and click next. And there are stack names, so score predictor S3 bucket. And now I'm going to input the primary IP address. And then we just have a configure option, so we can add a tag. So I'm just going to say let's just give it a score predictor tag and the value of S3 bucket. We don't need to worry about permissions. We'll just go ahead and select next. And then create stack. Right, so I will go ahead and run the rest of the templates, remembering the order that we will run the VPC and RDS template next, followed by the Lambda functions. I will then come back and do the rest of the video once all of this is complete. So while we wait for the CloudFormation templates to deploy, I thought I'd just show you how we can get our football data into our SQL RDS instance. So you will need to wait for your RDS instance to be deployed and also confirm that the correct network rules are in place so that you can communicate with it from your local machine. And then once you connect to it, we come over and create a new database. I'm going to call this one test1, and you'll probably want to call it whatever you've provided in the parameters for the CloudFormation template. So now we've got the new database. We can right click here and select tasks and then import data. And we'll get this import wizard to come up. We select next, and our data source, I believe this will be a flat file. Here we go, flat file source. And then we can select browse here. And CSV files. And we will go for probably the smaller one just to save time. So this is just the Premier League matches from 2018 to 2019. If we open that up, and we then go to next, and it will show us the columns. So it's already figured out that we have the home team, the away team, the referee, and all the other columns here, and all the data looks all good. And then we just select next. Destination is going to be SQL Server, so SQL Server native client. We've got our server name here, and the database is test1. And next again, and then finish. That's gone through and that's validating and running that, and we can see 380 rows have been transferred and that this has been successful. And then if we hit close and go into tables, we can see a new table here, and we can then go to select top 1000 rows, and we will see our data. And this is now ready to be queried by our Lambda functions and then passed back to the front end. Right, so now after some time we can see that our CloudFormation stacks have been created. So our Lambda functions, our VPC, our S3 bucket, and our API gateway have been created. So now there's just a few more steps left to actually complete this deployment. So as I showed you previously, you will need to go ahead and import the data sets for the Premier League table and also for the Football League table. Bearing in mind, I did find a little issue with importing these. It seems to be specific to this England table, so I'll just show you that now. Yep, so I noticed when trying to import these, it came up with an issue that all of the columns and also all of the entries had quotes, and in order to resolve this, we just need to go to the text qualifier here, and then just put in a quote mark here. And if we just go through next, if we go to preview, we can then see that these have been removed, and then you just also need to remove the quote marks manually or via T-SQL from the column names. So that will sort that issue out. You will also need to briefly allow access to your RDS instance to your public IP or to an EC2 machine, and just to allow you to actually import that data and manage that SQL instance. And the only thing left to do on each function is if you go to the API gateway bit and click on this here, this will bring you to the API configuration window for that Lambda function. And then we just need to enable cores here. I've already done it, so I'm not going to click it. And then just deploy the API. In the website folder, in the front end, you will also need to place the links. This can be found in the stages, and then prod stage, and then the actual post, and we have this link here. And this will need to be placed into the front end. So if we go to our index.html, so if we go to our JavaScript for the front end, we can see here these are the API endpoints that we can use to post our data to in order to get the football data back from our database. So once each Lambda function has been deployed and you've set up the front end with the API links provided from the Amazon API gateway, we can then go ahead and test this. So if I just reload this page and type in two teams here, so Arsenal and Liverpool, and we select get result, and we can see that took a bit of time to come back, but that might just be down to the Lambda functions actually warming up. So we can see the most common result was us a win, and it was a 1-1 draw for the most common score, and then we have our possession stats down here. And the only thing left to show you guys is this Cloudfront distribution here, which is pretty basic. We see we've got it configured here on this front end as well. So let me just go ahead and show you that. So you want to navigate to your Cloudfront distribution in AWS. And this is the one I have configured here, so we can see score predictor image. And then if we go to origins and origin groups, and then if we click here, this is just the origin I've configured, and then select edit, and we can see the origin domain name, which is the S3 bucket, which holds our image. And then it's just, again, the basic settings, so not restricting the bucket access. And then all we need to do is actually just place that link in our HTML. As we can see, I'll just show you in our index.html here. So you can see here the link here, so cloudfront.net webpic.jpg. And just to show you guys how to clean up the rest of your project when you're done and you want to delete all of this, you just need to come into CloudFormation and just delete each individual stack. So just to give you an example, if you come into the score lambda stack and then just hit delete and then delete stack, and that will set that one off onto the delete, and then you just need to go through and just delete all of the other CloudFormation stacks that we've created. So not forgetting the S3 bucket and also the larger CloudFormation template for the RDS and the VPC. And that will get all of your project cleaned up. So now the CloudFront distribution has been created and you've placed the links inside the HTML. That's the project now completed. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. As always, I will post the GitHub for all of the code and all the resources used in this video and the previous videos in the description. So if you could please like the video and subscribe.